Emma tightened her grip on the coffee pot as she moved down the narrow aisle of the plane. It was her third month working as a flight attendant for Skylink Airlines, and while she still felt out of place among the polished crew members, she was determined to do her best. Tonight's flight from New York to Dubai was packed with high-profile passengers, many of whom were traveling in first class. This wasn't just any regular trip. It was one of those long-haul journeys where every detail mattered. The hum of conversation filled the cabin, mingling with the quiet drone of the engines. Passengers chatted softly or scrolled through their phones, settling into the comfort of their seats. First class was particularly lively tonight, with business executives, celebrities, and wealthy travelers enjoying the luxury amenities. Emma glanced around nervously, making sure everything looked perfect before approaching each passenger with a warm smile. She started serving drinks near the front of the cabin, carefully pouring champagne and offering snacks to the guests. Most of them nodded politely or gave brief thanks, but a few barely acknowledged her presence, too absorbed in their work or conversations. Emma didn't mind. She understood that these people paid a lot of money for privacy and convenience. Still, she tried her hardest to be friendly without being intrusive. As she reached row 3, Emma paused. Sitting by the window was Michelle Carter, a name Emma recognized instantly. Michelle was famous, not only because she was incredibly wealthy, but also because of her groundbreaking contributions to renewable energy. Her face had been all over magazines and news outlets recently after launching a revolutionary solar power project. Emma took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm. Serving someone like Michelle required extra care. "Good evening, ma'am," Emma said softly, leaning slightly toward Michelle's seat. "Would you like something to drink?" Michelle looked up from her tablet, her expression neutral but poised. She studied Emma for a moment before responding. "Coffee, please," she said in a smooth, measured voice. There was no hint of impatience, but Emma could sense the weight of expectation behind her words. "Of course," Emma replied, forcing a smile as she began pouring the hot liquid into a delicate porcelain cup. She focused intently on her task, ensuring not to spill even a drop. So far, so good. But then it happened. Just as Emma was about to hand the cup to Michelle, the plane hit a patch of turbulence. It wasn't severe, just enough to jolt everyone slightly, but it was enough to throw Emma off balance. Her hand wobbled, and the scalding coffee sloshed out of the cup, splattering onto Michelle's designer suit. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. Emma stared in horror at the dark stain spreading across Michelle's pristine white sleeve. "Oh my goodness," Emma gasped, her cheeks flushing red. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to." Michelle set her tablet aside and examined the damage. Her jaw tightened ever so slightly, but she remained composed. "It's fine," she said coolly, though her tone carried an edge of irritation. "It's just a suit." Emma fumbled for napkins, quickly dabbing at the stain in a futile attempt to clean it. "I'll get you another one right away," she stammered, "and I'll make sure we have this cleaned for you immediately. Please forgive me." "It's all right," Michelle repeated, waving her hand dismissively. "Just be more careful next time." Emma nodded vigorously, her heart pounding in her chest. "Yes, ma'am. Thank you for understanding." She backed away slowly, clutching the coffee pot tightly to avoid another mishap. Once she was safely out of earshot, she exhaled sharply, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief. At least Michelle hadn't made a bigger fuss about it. Back in the galley, Emma leaned against the counter, trying to steady her nerves. Lisa, another flight attendant, noticed her distress and walked over. "You okay?" Lisa asked, raising an eyebrow. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I spilled coffee on Michelle Carter," Emma admitted in a low voice. "The billionaire. You know, the one who's always in the news." Lisa's eyes widened in surprise. "Wow. How did she take it?" "She said it was fine," Emma replied, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. "But she didn't seem happy about it. What if she complains? What if I get fired?" Lisa placed a reassuring hand on Emma's shoulder. "Relax. Accidents happen. Just focus on doing your job, and don't let it bother you too much." Besides, half the people in first class probably wouldn't even notice something like that. Despite Lisa's comforting words, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of dread. She knew how important it was to maintain professionalism, especially when dealing with VIP passengers. One wrong move could cost her everything: her job, her reputation, maybe even her dream of building a better life for herself. For the rest of the flight, Emma avoided Michelle's section as much as possible, delegating tasks to other crew members whenever she could. Every time she passed by Michelle's seat, she braced herself for criticism or anger, but none came. Michelle continued working on her tablet, seemingly unfazed by the earlier incident. Still, Emma couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of guilt. When the plane finally landed in Dubai several hours later, Emma helped guide the passengers off the aircraft, offering polite farewells as they disembarked. As Michelle stepped off the plane, she paused briefly and glanced back at Emma. Their eyes met for a moment, and Emma offered a hesitant smile. Michelle nodded once, a small gesture that left Emma wondering if it meant forgiveness or indifference. Once the last passenger had left, Emma collapsed into a seat in the now empty cabin, exhausted both physically and emotionally. She replayed the events of the night in her mind, cringing at the memory of the coffee spill. Little did she know this seemingly minor mistake would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. Unbeknownst to Emma, Michelle had already filed a formal complaint about the incident upon arriving at her hotel. While it was true that Michelle wasn't overly upset about the ruined suit, she believed in holding people accountable for their actions. After all, attention to detail was what separated excellence from mediocrity, and Michelle expected nothing less than perfection, especially when it came to service. Meanwhile, back at Skylink Airlines' headquarters in Chicago, reports of the incident made their way to upper management. Greg, Emma's supervisor, reviewed the details with a sigh. He appreciated Emma's dedication and hard work, but he knew that mistakes like this couldn't go unchecked. He decided to issue a formal warning, hoping it would serve as a learning experience rather than a punishment. What no one realized at the time was that Michelle's father, Robert Carter, owned Skylink Airlines. Though he rarely involved himself in day-to-day operations, he prided himself on maintaining high standards within the company. When he heard about the incident, he became curious, not just about the accident itself, but about the young flight attendant who had shown genuine remorse. And so, unbeknownst to Emma, her simple apology and humble demeanor had caught the attention of one of the most powerful men in the aviation industry. What started as a clumsy mistake was about to open doors Emma never imagined possible. But for now, she remained unaware, focusing instead on surviving her next shift and proving herself worthy of staying in the job she loved. Little did she know, her journey was only beginning. The days following the incident were some of the longest Emma had ever experienced. She replayed the coffee spill over and over in her mind, cringing at how clumsy she must have seemed. Every time she closed her eyes, she could picture Michelle's calm but icy demeanor as she brushed off the accident. Though Michelle hadn't made a scene, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she'd ruined everything. Her fears came true when Greg, her supervisor, called her into his office 2 days later. Emma sat nervously across from him, fidgeting with the hem of her uniform skirt. Greg leaned back in his chair, his expression serious, but not unkind. "Emma," he began, "I need to talk to you about what happened on the Dubai flight." Emma swallowed hard. "I know, sir, I'm really sorry about the coffee spill. It was completely my fault, and I'll do whatever it takes to make sure it doesn't happen again." Greg nodded. "I appreciate your honesty, Emma, and I believe you're capable of learning from this. But you should know that we received a formal complaint about the incident from Michelle Carter herself." Emma felt her stomach drop. Of course Michelle would file a complaint. Why wouldn't she? She was a billionaire used to perfection, and Emma had failed to deliver even basic service. "What happens now?" Emma asked quietly, dreading the answer. "For now, it's just a warning," Greg replied. "But if something like this happens, again, it could mean losing your job, do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Emma said, nodding quickly. "I promise I'll be more careful moving forward." "Good," Greg said, offering a small smile. You're a hard worker, Emma. Don't let one mistake define you. After leaving Greg's office, Emma returned to the break room where Lisa was chatting with another coworker. When she saw Emma's pale face, Lisa immediately knew something was wrong. "What did Greg say?" she asked, concern etched on her features. "He gave me a formal warning," Emma admitted, sinking onto a nearby chair. "Michelle filed a complaint." Lisa frowned. "That seems a bit harsh for spilling coffee. Did she really have to go that far?" "I don't blame her," Emma replied, shaking her head. "She pays thousands of dollars for first-class tickets, and I messed up. If I were in her shoes, I might complain too." "Well, maybe there's something you can do to fix things," Lisa suggested thoughtfully. "Have you considered writing her an apology letter? Sometimes people appreciate when others take responsibility and show they care." Emma hesitated. Writing a letter seemed risky. It might come across as desperate or insincere, but deep down she knew Lisa was right. A heartfelt apology might help ease the tension, even if it didn't change anything officially. "You think it's worth a shot?" Emma asked. "Absolutely," Lisa said with a reassuring smile. "Just be honest and genuine. That's all anyone can ask for." Later that evening, after finishing her shift, Emma sat down at her kitchen table with a pen and a blank sheet of paper. She stared at it for several minutes, unsure of where to start. Finally, she took a deep breath and began writing. "Dear Ms. Carter, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to personally apologize for the incident that occurred during your recent flight with Skylink Airlines. Spilling coffee on your suit was entirely my fault, and I deeply regret any inconvenience it caused you. Please know that I value the trust our passengers place in us to provide excellent service, and I am truly sorry for falling short of those expectations. I assure you that I will learn from this experience and work harder to ensure it never happens again. Thank you for your understanding, and I sincerely hope we can move past this unfortunate moment. Sincerely, Emma." Once the letter was complete, Emma read it over several times, making minor adjustments until she felt it conveyed her sincerity. The next morning, she mailed it to Michelle's corporate office address, hoping it would reach her soon. Unbeknownst to Emma, the letter caught the attention of someone unexpected: Robert Carter, Michelle's father, and the owner of Skylink Airlines. Though he rarely involved himself in customer complaints, he always reviewed feedback involving high-profile clients. When he saw Michelle's name attached to the report, he decided to look into the matter personally. As he read Emma's apology, Robert found himself impressed by her humility and professionalism. Most people in her position would have tried to justify their actions or shift the blame, but Emma had taken full responsibility without hesitation. He admired her courage and wondered if there was more to her than met the eye. Curious, Robert forwarded the letter to Michelle, adding a note: "This young woman seems sincere. Perhaps you should give her the benefit of the doubt." Michelle read both the letter and her father's comment, feeling conflicted. On one hand, she still believed accountability was important. On the other hand, she couldn't deny that Emma's apology had touched her. Over the next few weeks, life continued as usual for Emma. She worked extra hard to avoid mistakes, pouring all her energy into providing exceptional service. Despite her efforts, she couldn't shake the lingering anxiety that another misstep could cost her job. To distract herself, she threw herself into training sessions and team meetings, determined to improve her skills. One afternoon, while attending a workshop at Skylink Airlines headquarters in Chicago, Emma found herself standing near a group of senior staff members discussing upcoming projects. As she listened intently, trying to absorb as much information as possible, a familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. "Excuse me, are you Emma?" Startled, Emma turned around to see Michelle standing behind her. For a moment, she froze, unsure of what to say. Then she managed a nervous smile. "Yes, ma'am. That's me." Michelle studied her for a moment, her expression unreadable. "I received your letter," she said finally. "Thank you for taking the time to write it." Emma's heart raced. "I meant every word, ma'am. I really am sorry for what happened." Michelle nodded slowly. "I appreciate that. Accountability is rare these days. You handled the situation well. Relieved, Emma exhaled softly. Thank you for saying that. It means a lot. Before either of them could say more, a tall man with graying hair approached the pair. He introduced himself with a warm smile. Hello, Emma. I'm Robert Carter. Emma blinked in surprise. Robert Carter. The name sounded familiar, but it took her a moment to connect the dots. When realization dawned, her eyes widened. Oh, Mr. Carter, it's an honor to meet you. Robert chuckled lightly. The honor is mine. I've heard good things about you, your dedication, your willingness to learn. I think you have potential. Emma blushed, unsure of how to respond. Thank you, sir. I'm just trying to do my best. Well, keep it up, Robert said, his tone encouraging. We're launching a new initiative to improve customer relations within the company, and I'd like you to be part of it. Would you be interested? Emma's jaw dropped. Me? Really? Yes, really, Robert replied with a grin. I believe in giving opportunities to those who deserve them. Let's discuss it further soon. As Robert walked away, Michelle gave Emma a small smile. Looks like my dad sees something special in you. Don't disappoint him. I won't, Emma promised, her voice filled with determination. And thank you for giving me a chance. With that, Michelle turned and followed her father, leaving Emma standing in stunned silence. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Not only had Michelle accepted her apology, but Robert Carter, a man she'd only heard of in passing, had offered her a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For the first time since the coffee spill, Emma allowed herself to feel hopeful. Maybe this wasn't the end of her career at Skylink Airlines. Maybe it was the beginning of something greater. Little did she know, the road ahead would bring challenges and revelations that would test her resilience, and ultimately transform her life in ways she never imagined. Emma couldn't stop thinking about the conversation she'd had with Michelle and Robert Carter. It felt surreal, like stepping into a world far beyond anything she'd ever imagined for herself. When Robert mentioned the initiative to improve customer relations, Emma assumed it would involve attending occasional meetings or workshops. But when she received an email inviting her to participate actively in planning sessions alongside senior staff members, she realized this was much bigger than she'd anticipated. The first meeting took place in a spacious conference room on the top floor of Skylink Airlines headquarters. As Emma walked in, she felt out of place among the sharply dressed executives who greeted each other with practiced smiles and firm handshakes. She tugged at the collar of her uniform, wishing she'd been given time to change into something more formal. Still, she reminded herself that she belonged here, not because of her appearance, but because Robert Carter believed in her potential. Michelle was already seated at the table, scrolling through documents on her tablet. When she noticed Emma enter, she gave a small nod of acknowledgement before returning to her work. Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure where to sit, but eventually chose a chair near the middle of the table. Other attendees trickled in, exchanging pleasantries and making small talk. Emma stayed quiet, listening intently as they discussed upcoming projects and strategies. Robert arrived last, carrying a folder filled with notes. He greeted everyone warmly before taking his seat at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice steady and commanding. Today we're going to discuss ways to enhance our customer experience. This initiative is crucial for Skylink's future success, and I'm excited to have such talented individuals working together. He glanced around the room, pausing briefly when his eyes landed on Emma. I'd like to introduce Emma Bennett, one of our dedicated flight attendants. Emma will be contributing her perspective as someone who interacts directly with passengers every day. Her insights will be invaluable. Emma felt her cheeks flush as several pairs of eyes turned toward her. She managed a polite smile, hoping she didn't look as nervous as she felt. Thank you, Mr. Carter, she said softly. I'm honored to be part of this. The meeting proceeded smoothly, with various team members presenting ideas and proposals. Emma listened carefully, jotting down notes whenever something stood out to her. At one point, Michelle leaned forward to comment on a suggestion, her tone sharp but constructive. We need to focus on practical solutions, she said. Passengers don't care about flashy gimmicks. They want reliability and respect. Emma nodded in agreement, impressed by Michelle's no-nonsense approach. Though Michelle hadn't addressed her directly during the meeting, Emma sensed that she was observing her closely. Afterward, as the group broke for coffee, Emma found herself standing alone near the window, gazing out at the bustling city below. "You're doing well," a voice said behind her. Startled, Emma turned to see Michelle approaching with 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Emma, who accepted it gratefully. "Thank you," Emma said, surprised by the gesture. "And thank you for saying that. I wasn't sure if I was fitting in." Michelle shrugged. "You're holding your own. That's more than most people can say in their first meeting with this crowd." She sipped her coffee thoughtfully before continuing. "Tell me, why did you decide to become a flight attendant?" Emma hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "It wasn't exactly my dream job," she admitted, "but I needed something stable while I figured out what I really wanted to do. Plus, I've always loved traveling, even if it's just through stories or movies. Being able to see different places, even if it's just airports, felt exciting." Michelle nodded, her expression softening slightly. "That makes sense. A lot of people underestimate service jobs, but they require resilience and adaptability. Qualities like that are rare." Emma smiled faintly. "I guess so. I just try to do my best, even if I mess up sometimes." "And that's what matters," Michelle replied. "Owning your mistakes shows character. Not everyone does that." Their conversation shifted to lighter topics, and Emma learned more about Michelle's background. Despite her wealth and status, Michelle spoke openly about her struggles growing up and how she'd worked tirelessly to build her company. Emma was struck by the contrast between Michelle's polished exterior and her down-to-earth personality. Over the next few weeks, Emma became more involved in the project, attending regular meetings and collaborating with Michelle and the rest of the team. They brainstormed ideas, analyzed passenger feedback, and developed strategies to address common complaints. Through it all, Emma discovered strengths she hadn't known she possessed. She offered creative solutions based on her first-hand experiences, and provided input that others hadn't considered. One afternoon, after a particularly productive session, Michelle pulled Emma aside. "You've been impressing me," she said bluntly. "Your ideas are fresh and you're not afraid to speak up. That's refreshing." "I'm just trying to contribute," Emma replied, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "This project means a lot to me. I want to help make things better for passengers and employees alike." Michelle studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Good. Keep it up. You never know where opportunities like this might lead." As the weeks passed, Emma and Michelle grew closer, bonding over shared goals and mutual respect. Michelle began sharing more about her personal life, including her passion for sustainability and her desire to use her wealth to create positive change. In turn, Emma opened up about her own dreams of pursuing higher education and building a career that combined travel and humanitarian work. During one late-night planning session, Michelle surprised Emma by asking about her family. "Do you have siblings?" Michelle asked casually, leaning back in her chair. "No," Emma replied. "It's just me and my mom. We moved around a lot when I was younger, so I learned to adjust quickly." "What about you?" Michelle smiled faintly. "I have a brother, but we're not close. My dad, though, he's always been my biggest supporter. Even when I doubted myself, he believed in me." Emma tilted her head curiously. "That must be nice, having someone like that in your corner." "It is," Michelle agreed. Then, after a pause, she added, "Speaking of which, he's been asking about you." "About me?" Emma echoed, startled. "Why?" "He thinks you're smart and driven," Michelle explained, "and honestly, so do I. You remind me of myself when I was starting out, all determination and grit." Emma blinked, unsure how to respond. "That's really kind of you to say. I don't know if I'm quite on your level, though." Michelle chuckled. "Give yourself credit. You're getting there." By the time the initial phase of the project wrapped up, Emma had gained confidence not only in her abilities, but also in her worth. She realized that her background, her struggles, and triumphs gave her a unique perspective that others valued. For the first time in her life, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. Unbeknownst to Emma, Michelle had begun advocating for her behind the scenes. She praised Emma's contributions to Robert, urging him to consider her for leadership roles within the company. Robert, already impressed by Emma's dedication, agreed wholeheartedly. Little did Emma know, her journey was far from over. The connections she'd made, and the trust she'd earned, were about to open doors she'd never dreamed possible. But for now, she focused on the present, grateful for the opportunity to grow and learn alongside someone as remarkable as Michelle Carter. As the sun set over the city skyline, casting golden light across the conference room, Emma allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She thought about how far she'd come since that fateful night on the Dubai flight. What had started as a clumsy mistake had blossomed into an incredible opportunity, one that promised to shape the rest of her life. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. As the weeks turned into months, Emma's role in the Customer Relations Initiative grew more significant. She no longer felt like an outsider among the executives and senior staff members. Instead, she had earned their respect through her hard work and fresh ideas. Her collaboration with Michelle became a cornerstone of the project, and the two women developed a strong working relationship that occasionally spilled over into personal conversations. One afternoon, while reviewing data in a small meeting room, Emma noticed subtle hints about Michelle's background that she hadn't picked up on before. Michelle casually mentioned attending events hosted by influential figures or traveling on private jets for business meetings. At first, Emma dismissed these details as typical for someone in Michelle's position, but then she started connecting the dots. It happened during a casual chat after a long day of presentations. Michelle was packing up her things when Emma hesitantly asked, "You seem to know a lot of powerful people. Is it because of your company?" Michelle paused, glancing at Emma with a curious smile. "Partly," she replied, "but there's more to it than that." Emma tilted her head, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Michelle hesitated for a moment, as if weighing how much to share. Finally, she said, "My father isn't just supportive. He's also the reason I have access to certain opportunities. He owns Skylink Airlines." Emma froze, her mind racing as the pieces clicked into place. Robert Carter, the man who had praised her efforts and included her in this project, was Michelle's father, and he owned the airline where Emma worked. She stared at Michelle, stunned. "Wait, what? Your dad owns Skylink?" Michelle nodded, her expression calm but amused. "Yes. He prefers to keep a low profile, though, so not many people know." Emma sank into her chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. All this time, she'd been working closely with Michelle without realizing her connection to the company's owner. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Emma asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I wanted you to see me for who I am. Not because of my last name," Michelle explained. "Does it change anything now that you know?" Emma thought about it for a moment. On one hand, the truth added context to everything that had happened. The formal complaint, Robert's interest in her potential, and even Michelle's willingness to mentor her. But on the other hand, none of that diminished the genuine bond they'd formed. "No," Emma said finally, "it doesn't change how I feel about working with you. You've been fair and supportive from the start." Michelle smiled, clearly relieved. "Good. Because I believe in giving people chances based on their merit, not their circumstances. That's why I advocated for you to be part of this project." Emma felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you for trusting me. I won't let you down." The revelation about Michelle's family only strengthened their partnership. Over the next few weeks, Emma threw herself into the project with renewed determination. She knew she had been given a rare opportunity, and she was determined to prove herself worthy of it. During one of their brainstorming sessions, Michelle brought up an idea that excited Emma, creating a mentorship program within Skylink Airlines to support employees from diverse backgrounds. We need to invest in talent like yours, Michelle said. People who come from challenging situations but have the drive to succeed. Imagine what we could achieve if we gave them the tools and guidance they need. Emma loved the concept. That sounds amazing. It would help so many people, including me. Michelle grinned. Exactly. Let's make it happen. Together, they drafted a proposal outlining the program's goals and structure. They presented it to Robert, who immediately approved it. This is exactly the kind of innovation I want to see, he said, beaming with pride. Emma, you've exceeded my expectations. Keep pushing boundaries. With Robert's backing, the mentorship program quickly gained traction. Emma took on a leadership role, helping to design training modules and connect mentees with experienced mentors. Her confidence soared as she realized the impact she could have, not just on individual lives but on the company as a whole. Despite her success, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far she'd come since that fateful night on the Dubai flight. What had started as a clumsy mistake had led her to form meaningful relationships, uncover hidden strengths, and contribute to transformative initiatives. She often wondered what might have happened if Michelle hadn't filed that complaint, or if Robert hadn't decided to give her a chance. One evening, after wrapping up another productive day, Emma found herself alone with Michelle in the conference room. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the city skyline. Emma leaned back in her chair, feeling a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in years. You've come a long way, Michelle said, breaking the silence. Do you ever think about where you'll go from here? Emma nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes I still dream of going back to school and maybe working in humanitarian aid someday. But for now, I'm happy right where I am. Michelle smiled. There's no rush. You're building a foundation that will serve you well no matter what path you choose. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights of the city twinkle to life. For Emma, this moment symbolized everything she'd achieved, and everything she hoped to accomplish in the future. Thanks to Michelle's guidance and Robert's belief in her potential, she had transformed a single misstep into a stepping stone toward greatness. Unbeknownst to Emma, her journey was far from over. The connections she'd made and the skills she'd developed would continue to shape her life in unexpected ways. But for now, she allowed herself to savor the present, grateful for the friendships and opportunities that had changed her world forever. As the final phase of the project approached, Emma prepared to step into a new chapter, one filled with challenges, growth, and endless possibilities. Little did she know, the best was yet to come. The months flew by and Emma's life transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Her hard work on the mentorship program earned her recognition not only from Robert Carter, but also from other senior leaders within Skylink Airlines. She was promoted to a supervisory role, overseeing a team of flight attendants and helping implement new policies designed to improve customer satisfaction. It was a position that came with challenges, but Emma embraced them wholeheartedly, knowing she had the support of Michelle and Robert. One morning, as Emma prepared for a routine flight to London, she received an email inviting her to attend a special event at Skylink's headquarters later that week. The subject line read, "Celebrating excellence, honoring our employees." Curious, Emma opened the message and discovered that she had been selected as one of the honorees, a recognition reserved for individuals who demonstrated exceptional dedication and innovation within the company. Emma felt a mix of excitement and disbelief. Me? Really? She whispered to herself, rereading the email multiple times to make sure it wasn't a mistake. When she shared the news with Lisa during their pre-flight briefing, Lisa squealed with joy. "Of course it's you," Lisa exclaimed. "You've worked so hard for this. Everyone knows how much you've done for the company." That evening, after landing in London, Emma called her mom to share the news. Her mother, always her biggest cheerleader, cried tears of pride. "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart," she said. "You've earned every bit of this. Keep shining." By the time the day of the event arrived, Emma was a bundle of nerves. She dressed carefully in a navy blue dress that matched her uniform, wanting to look polished yet approachable. As she entered the grand ballroom at Skylink's headquarters, She was greeted by rows of tables adorned with white linens and sparkling centerpieces. The room buzzed with conversation as employees, executives, and guests mingled under glittering chandeliers. Robert Carter stood at the podium, waiting to address the crowd. When he began speaking, his voice carried warmth and gratitude. "Tonight we celebrate the incredible people who make Skylink Airlines what it is," he said. "Each of our honorees has shown extraordinary commitment to excellence, and I am proud to recognize their contributions." As Robert announced Emma's name, her heart raced. She walked up to the stage, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on her. Robert handed her a plaque engraved with the words, "Outstanding Leadership and Innovation." Smiling broadly, he shook her hand and leaned in to whisper, "You've made us all proud, Emma." When it was her turn to speak, Emma took a deep breath and faced the audience. "Thank you, Mr. Carter, and thank you to everyone here tonight," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "When I started at Skylink, I never imagined I'd be standing here today. A lot of things led me to this moment, including a coffee spill that almost cost me my job." The crowd chuckled softly and Emma smiled. "But instead of giving up on me, Michelle Carter and my supervisor, Greg, gave me a second chance. They taught me that mistakes aren't failures. They're opportunities to learn and grow. To Michelle, thank you for believing in me and for showing me the power of accountability and grace. And to Mr. Carter, thank you for seeing potential in someone like me." Applause erupted throughout the room, and Emma stepped off the stage, feeling a wave of relief and accomplishment wash over her. Michelle approached her moments later, offering a warm hug. "You were amazing," Michelle said sincerely. "Proud doesn't even begin to cover it. None of this would have happened without you," Emma replied, her eyes glistening with emotion. "You changed my life." Michelle shook her head slightly. "No, Emma. You changed your own life. All I did was give you a push." Over the next few weeks, Emma settled into her new responsibilities with confidence. Her promotion allowed her to travel less frequently, focusing instead on mentoring junior staff members and developing training programs. She loved seeing the progress her mentees made, knowing she was making a difference in their careers just as Michelle had done for her. Meanwhile, Michelle continued to advocate for initiatives that promoted diversity and inclusion within the airline industry. Inspired by Emma's journey, she launched a scholarship fund to help low-income students pursue education in aviation-related fields. At the unveiling ceremony, Michelle invited Emma to say a few words. Standing before a crowd of aspiring pilots, engineers, and flight attendants, Emma spoke passionately about the importance of resilience and determination. "Don't let setbacks define you," she told the audience. "Use them as stepping stones to build a better future, for yourself and for others. If I can do it, so can you." Her words resonated deeply with those in attendance, earning her a standing ovation. Afterward, several students approached her to express their gratitude, sharing stories of their own struggles and dreams. Emma listened intently, offering advice and encouragement whenever she could. As the year drew to a close, Emma reflected on everything she had achieved. From spilling coffee on a billionaire to receiving awards and leading teams, her journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. She realized that none of it would have been possible without the kindness and belief of others: Michelle, Robert, Lisa, and countless others who had supported her along the way. One evening, as she boarded a plane as a senior crew member, Emma paused to take in the scene around her. Passengers filed onto the aircraft, chatting excitedly about their destinations. Flight attendants moved efficiently through the cabin, ensuring everything was ready for departure. For a moment, Emma felt overwhelmed by a profound sense of gratitude for her job, her colleagues, and the opportunities she'd been given. As the plane taxied down the runway and lifted into the sky, Emma gazed out the window at the vast expanse below. She thought about how a single mistake had set off a chain reaction that changed her life forever. What had once seemed like a disaster had turned into a blessing, a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness or humility could open doors you never knew existed. Emma smiled to herself, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. No matter where her journey took her next, She knew she would carry the lessons she'd learned and the connections she'd made with her always. Life was unpredictable, but one thing was certain. She was ready for whatever came her way. And as the plane soared higher, Emma felt her spirit soar along with it, free, hopeful, and endlessly grateful for the path she'd traveled and the roads still ahead.